back in the office.
Hi everybody, sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll just do a quick introduction. These are our two lovely colleagues here. I've been working with some ranger women groups in the Northern Territory. We'll get everybody up and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Thank you for your patience.
Would you mind closing the door? Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. We're going to be talking today on assessing the health of priority waterholes and building digital confidence with the Warddeken Daluk Rangers. Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on where we're meeting today, the Larrakia people and any other traditional owners that are in the room and any of the other amazing places that we all work across Australia. So just to do some brief introductions, my name's Jennifer Macdonald. I'm a research fellow at the Northern Institute, coming towards the end of a 3-year postdoc, working particularly to think about how to use digital technologies in a responsible and safe way on country with women rangers across the top end. So,
my name's Cara. So I have a few hats, like we all seem to do, particularly when we live out bush. I have been working as the ecological monitoring manager at Warddeken Land Management for the last 5 years. And then I started a research fellow same time as Jen. So for the last couple of years, I've also been working at the Northern Institute. And that was seen as a way to kind of try and bring all of the ecological research that we were doing in the Warddeken IPA and finding ways to bridge institutions and land management together for trying to work out what that looks like best practice. And so I've been involved in this journey for the last couple of years and looking at how we build the ecological skills of rangers on country. And this is Suzannah.
Hi, my name is Suzannah Nabulwad. I'm working with Regional Women Officer, the chairperson. Also, I'm working with rangers and I'm a senior ranger.
And we just also want to acknowledge that, we're here representing a really large group of women that have all been doing this work on country. And at Warddeken, we also have some other digital team leaders. And also Alexandria has also worked really hard on this project, and she's the mite recovery officer at Warddeken as well. So there's lots and lots of women that are involved in this, and you'll see a lot of their faces along the way as well.
So the broad program within which we're working is called the Digital Women Ranger Program, and that grew out of a recognition that digital technologies are being used more and more across Northern Australia, including by Indigenous people to care for country. The impact of those technologies as they land on country and are integrated into practices and the kind of impact on connections between people and country are not that well understood. So that's some of the work that we've been trying to understand. Based on requests from women that we worked with across the top end, we've co-designed and been running this Digital Women Ranger program for the past few years, which is a large collaboration between women rangers, coordinators and researchers. And the program is kind of based on pillars of empowering women through a supportive network to learn, apply and adapt their digital skills in their own particular places. So we've co-designed this program through a series of on-country and regional workshops throughout 2022 and 2023. So trying to make sure that we get the story right of how we want to support women to learn to use digital technologies. And this has been through a really lovely and evolving bunch of women's ranger groups, which includes Warddeken, but also is includes Kakadu, Mimal, Jelk and Jarwin, and then a whole bunch of other ranger groups that have kind of come in and out as they want to and have had capacity to do. We've also started working with some groups down in Central Australia, which is really lovely, and with the Southeast Arnhem Rangers down near Nooka and Nabulwad. So we did a whole bunch of really wonderful workshops that lots of people have been involved in to co-design the program. The women rangers articulated some of the care practices that they were really needed to feel safe and be able to use technologies responsibly on country, to bring those technologies into onto country and into their workplaces. And through some of those workshop activities and interviews and, working together to draw out what that would look like. This includes the governance practices that senior people are kind of enacting when we bring technology onto country, to make sure that data and digital technologies are used in particular ways in particular places. It means using technologies for a purpose on country, so we're not just flying a drone or using a camera for no reason, but putting it into a practical application, and in a way that's localised to the priorities of each ranger group. And it means using technologies for monitoring and sort of using them in a way that is only done when people feel safe to do that. And I guess the really strong message that has come through with the work that we've done is that when these three pillars are in place, people feel really safe to use technology and kind of build their skills and confidence when they're out on country. We did a lot of this co-design work and grounding work at a really lovely workshop out at Munmoy, which was led by the Warddeken Daluk Rangers in May 2023. And we're using this to kind of guide our work together as we go forward. And particularly thinking, I guess, from a more theoretical perspective of we're thinking of it in terms of technological glitches or problems and opportunities that come up when we bring technology into ranger work and into collaborative research work. And so when we're thinking about these glitches and these, the things that are kind of coming up against when we bring technologies onto country, we're thinking about three different themes that have emerged through our work together, which includes material and infrastructure problems that arise when we work with digital tools in Northern Australia, and the creative ways that women are innovating and rangers are innovating to get around some of those issues. We're building a network and a community of women and elders that support women at all different levels and skills and confidence, to make sure that we support everybody on their journey of that, and acknowledge the gendered nature of caring for country practices, and we try and have fun at the same time. And then really trying to support the particular journeys of each and every person and their interests and their aspirations, and the aspirations of the ranger group in particular. So the women were really clear that they wanted support to learn practical skills on country, to learn and practice using different tools and data in their ranger work. And so as part of the program, we've developed a bunch of digital badges which enable women to learn on country in groups in their particular places, to use digital tools to collect data, start to analyse that data, and start to translate that data into monitoring actions. So we've got different badges for monitoring with drones, with camera traps, with video interviews, acoustic recorders, touch GIS. Those are like some of the really main tools that rangers are using. And then caring for camera data as that comes into the system, and making sure that that's done in a really careful way that empowers elders to be part of the process and keeps it in the right place. Each of the badges has a whole bunch of skill units that sit behind it. That includes both culturally safe, like establishing that culturally safe use of technology and obtaining ongoing consent from traditional owners and decision makers, and also learning really practical skills in place within ranger programs. And the badges are signed off by a senior authority and a technical authority to make sure that people both are safe technically and are confident to use those skills in a technical sense, but are also really safe within their places and programs. And I guess a really key part of that has been to make sure that we can deliver that training in groups. So people are women are supported together. They're not standing out unless they want to. And as people become more and more confident, they've been able to deliver the training themselves as they've either become proficient and got that badge to do cameras, or if they've got their castle license and things like that. And we're able to do that in people's particular places rather than having to all come into Darwin just to learn these skills. So that's the kind of broad overview. Now I'm going to hand over to these guys to show how we've tried to bring that into a particular place with the Warddeken.
So yeah, as like a kind of follow on from establishing the program all throughout 2023, we then wanted to apply this to a question and focusing on what was a local question, and keeping in mind that we wanted to build these digital skills and use these digital badges along the way to try and understand and monitor country. So at Warddeken, we wanted to look at using these skills to develop a biocultural approach to assess healthy country impacts of feral animals on waterholes. Today, we're just going to go through the waterholes and the story at Nabulwad, but this has been through my research fellow work, is that we've done this in a couple communities, but it looks different depending on where we are and what people want to follow through. So it's been designed with a bit of flexibility, but a lot of these tools were used in different places. So do you want to share why waterholes are important to you?
Important damage the country, pigs and buffalo and horse. Like long time, no damage, each variable. But now damage the country, pigs and buffalo. That's why we kill pigs and buffalo, damaging country.
So where we are, you're not too sure. So the Warddeken Indigenous Protected Area is next to Kakadu National Park. And so there's 3 outstations that Warddeken primarily operates out of, which is Gubberwanayu, Munmoy and Nabulwad. So up the top of the right, we've got a photo of Nabulwad outstation. And Suzannah will share her connection to that country.
The top one, that's my mother country. So I'm caretaker for that. The bottom one, I'm a TO for that. That's my country goodwill. Cara had first time to come with us with Alice.
5 years ago now. So this work that we did, we focused around Nabulwad. So what was the first thing we did at the start of this project?
We consult the TOs and Chungai from Jalama clan. We pick 3 bases, 3 waterhole. One of my Iburanji, Mamre Bilbo. The waterhole had damage from feral animal. We visit often.
And that top one, Gunmameme, like that one, you often go for wagi fishing, freshwater prawn. And Yippadunji is often a place that's visited. So you can see from the map, so the red point is Mummadaweri. And so all of these waterholes are quite near community, and they're road accessible, so people are often going to them. So one of the first skills that we were using as part of the project was mapping. What did we use the iPad for?
GIS. We're using drone, camera, and sound meter.
So we use them. They are really great for part of the consultation process. If we can zoom in, we can plan around where we need to go. And then what we did is we designed how we were going to collect that metadata. So we were recording where we did the drone surveys, where we recorded cameras and song meters so that we know where they are to pick them up later. But in one of those photos there, you can see part of the metadata that was quite important is that we wanted to record who put out that camera. So that way we know if a TO or a Jungai has been involved in the work, because that's what we're aiming for, is making sure that the right people are being a part of this monitoring process, and that we're collecting the metadata that we need from an ecology perspective along the way so that we know what sounds we're hearing or what photos we have. What do we use motion cameras for?
Feral animals. We're using camera for feral animals. Dingo, kangaroo, cats, pigs, cattle, buffalo.
So this was connected with a couple badges. So the first one was the site survey using camera traps. So at Warddeken, we've been using cameras for a long time. So a lot of the women are already quite competent and confident using this on country. And in that case, they were able to train other Daluk rangers that maybe hadn't been involved in monitoring before. And that was a bit more of a stand back scenario. And then the second badge, we have caring for camera trap data. So we went and we collected those cameras. We brought that back to the ranger station, and then we set up a database to be able to bilingually tag those images. So at Warddeken, we've done that for a long time, but often sometimes that step is removed because we're doing a really large systematic monitoring survey. So part of this is trying to break down the steps and having a smaller project where we can teach those. And so a couple of the women rangers completed this badge. And what we found from the cameras was that we were mainly recording feral species, and then only a few native mites, so the wallaby and the dingo. And that overall the highest activity was really from horses that we got on camera. What do we use song meters for?
Song meter for little bird and big bird.
So this was a bit of a new one for us. We hadn't really used these before, myself included. So we talked a lot about how we were going to set them up. We decided for them to record at dawn and dusk because that's when we believed the birds were going to be most active. And then there's a bit of a process there where we were working with CSIRO to use BirdNet, to use machine learning to pull out all of the bird species that are being recorded. Because that's also a bit of a new thing, We then needed to actually verify the machine, which is a bit of a step. So we've looked at it from an ecological perspective of whether it's likely those birds are there. But then it was really important to bring that information back and have the dual verification to go through all of those birds to make sure that that also made sense on country, that a machine wasn't just picking out all of these bird calls and that something was present that maybe isn't there. Was there a bird that was missing from the recorder?
Bush turkey.
Yeah, so we did work out that there was one missing that we had seen at the waterholes, which is good to know for detectability. To look at what the local names would be, and we went through all of the birds that we recorded and had to think about what we would want to use as an indicator for biocultural waterhole health going forward. What were the two main birds bush tucker wise that decided were important?
Goose and whistle-duck.
Yeah, so those ones, because what's the mudmay that they like to eat?
Water lilies.
Yeah. So there's water lilies and grass, and that gets impacted significantly by pigs. So having them there is a good sign, and also they're good bush tucker. But also some of the water holes that they might be present at might still be at medium health. They could still be quite dirty and mucky. So we also had to think about what was a mite that could be a good indicator of a lot of vegetation, and by that lots of trees and vegetation around the water hole. And we recorded a purple-backed fairy wren at the Mumnawari Billabong, which has really intact vegetation. There's less feral animals going to it because it's right near community, and there's also crocodiles in it that are kind of managing to keep pigs and buffalo out, as well as horses. So we came to talking about potentially using the Daluk because it also likes lots of paper bark to make its nest. So we thought that that could potentially be another ecological indicator. What did we do with drones?
From doing mapping, check, Billabong.
Right. So we've looked at it, we kind of thought about, we can see impact on the ground, what's a way that we can potentially record that through time. And one of the simplest ways we kind of came up with was if we could take a drone map, understanding that between the seasons, there's definitely change. So we thought we could survey in July and October. And as an idea going forward is potentially see hopefully some improvements in vegetation. You can see the last one, so we actually, it's not October yet, so we haven't gone back, but you can look at vegetation with the digital surface models. And so we're going to explore how that's a resource that we can use going forward. But an important part of that badge and those steps is not only just applying or using the drone, it's actually then going back to the station, uploading it onto GeoNadir, having that map stitched together and having that in a safe place where rangers can access it pretty much as soon as we've done the job. And so that's something that then if, some people haven't been able to come out to the waterhole with us, is that they can see that map as well. And the last one, interview and transects. What do we do on the transects?
Looking for trap pigs, buffalo, and horse, searching the country.
Yeah, so we thought that was a bit of a complementary way of looking above big picture with the drones and then looking a bit more closely on the ground. And what we found for the waterholes that we were visiting was that a lot of the tracks, or the majority of the impact in 2024 was actually from horses. So there wasn't, there was a low amount of buffalo, a medium amount of pigs, and then quite a high amount of horses. And with those health assessments, so you can see we also did interviews around the waterholes and the places, and trying to assess, does that bush tucker seem healthy, and having a think about where it potentially we want it to go in the future. So how does all of that information then come into local management? Well, For the last kind of 2 years preceding this work is that traditional owners had been joining the Warddeken IPA-wide buffalo culling program. So about 150 to 200 buffalo had been removed from the area each year. So you can see up here, it's actually a bit of a high density above Nabulwad. So before we did these surveys, people had already been making decisions to manage buffalo on country. And that was kind of reflected in what we were seeing on ground. So then it became a decision about what are we doing perhaps about the horses, because that had a very high impact at our waterholes. So after we'd completed all of these surveys and we had been looking at the cameras and we had been looking at the impact, there were then a lot of discussions in community about managing the horses. And it wasn't just managing the horses for the waterholes, there were other community reasons. Would you like to share?
Because there was walking around in the airport, end of the airstrip, in the houses every night. That's why these guys, they was doing aerial shooting for horses. That's my grandson and my brother-in-law. That's why they was killing all the horses.
Yeah, so part of that, we went back and we did consultations again. You know, we took that waterhole story, and part of that was going to all of the TOs and Jungai and following on and saying, we're potentially ready to help undertake some management. Is this something that you would like to do? And as part of the work with Warddeken is that we have 4 Indigenous aerial platform shooters, which is really great. And so they're part of doing that work on their country and with their community as well. And so over a couple of days, so it was only 3 days, ended up shooting 385 feral horses just from that area. And you can see a lot of that is around those waterholes. And so, yeah, depending on how we go this year, observationally, how many horses have you seen around Nabulwad this year?
None.
Yeah, so it's pretty great. But we'll be putting cameras out again to also just do a dual verification. And then there are certainly a lot of horses potentially down at Gabari Way. So maybe there'll be consults there in the future. But I think it was a really great outcome of this work and a catalyst. And we went back recently in July and got Suzannah showing the damage that is now still at Yippadungi. See if it. No, we got no sound. Do you want to explain what's on the screen then?
That's why I'm recording, because you can see how pigs damaging the country and buffalo. Before, like water lily, long time, there's a lot, but now it's gone from the pigs.
So we then decided, well, now we've got lots of questions about pigs. So what have we tried to do about pigs this year?
Pigs up, set up with pig traps. So all the pigs get inside the cage, locked out. And we have to make it sleeping Jackson. So we have to put tape on it. After we have to put collar. Then we leave 20 minutes and he'll be get up, and you can see in the map he'll be travel a lot, like visit the families, like different places, walking around. Then he die, then we have to go take that take off and collar, take it back to ranger base.
Yeah, so part of this is kind of connected to also other kind of projects that we're working on with NALSMA and Priority Place, but so we have kind of our landscape scale questions, but what's come out of having these focused looks at waterholes is that we're also making sure that we do these projects near community as well. And so we're getting a good understanding of the home range of pigs and how we might develop localised management perhaps to support local waterholes that are important to people. So it might not be something that we can do everywhere, but trying to understand what that management can be for important places. And so how is this then all connected? I guess what we're really trying to achieve here is that we really want to support building individuals' digital skills in survey software so that they can collect the data, we can process that data on country, and then we can translate that into a story that can go back to traditional owners and the community so that we can understand country in different ways. So data is not necessarily, well, data is not knowledge, but it is a way to have a different understanding of country, whether we're using that with cameras or song meters or a drone. And that enables people to then feed that information into their own knowledge systems, which is separate to the organisation or to us, and to understand what that then means or empower them to make local decisions. And really trying to support and focus that at a clan estate level, which is how we want to support and operate families and traditional owners to be able to care for country. And actually finding ways that we can do that within the relevant land management timeframes, because obviously everything is quite seasonal. And I think as a personal reflection I've found is that when we do that work together, is that, you know, we're slowly building on the next problem and then seeing those successes, and then that helps drive us to keep going. And that the role really here is just for me to facilitate people to be able to understand their country and make those, well, support those decisions, and how we can do that land management together to support these really important places. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's great. I guess we just really want to acknowledge that this is part of like a big network of lots and lots of Indigenous and non-Indigenous women rangers, researchers and coordinators, and we're really focused on making sure that all of those people are safe and involved, and acknowledge the really amazing work of our supervisors at CSIRO, Kathy Robinson, and funders through the Telstra Foundation and the support of the Northern Institute, and all of those things, and that there's more information if you'd like it on the website. So thanks very much. And we'll be here if you want to ask any questions.
Group questions or
Yes,
individual
yeah.
questions. All good. I don't know how we're going for time.
No questions online. Does anybody have any questions in the room?
How many rangers have been getting those badges?
We have like 150.
At least 150.
Yeah, over 150.
Yeah.
So lots of, like, heaps of rangers getting data collection badges, which has been really amazing to like sort of build those establishment skills, and now trying to move into that more data processing and analysis, and working in in particular ranger groups to support that process in a way that, and I guess that's been a really huge part of the driving force of this program, has been about trying to keep the digital work and the data itself in people's ranger programs, so that they have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do that going forward.
And
yeah.
from an organisational perspective, It's really helped me. So because we've got a lot of a casual workforce as well, is once, you know, you're training heaps of people in camera traps, but can't quite remember who you've trained and who you haven't. So as an organisation, to be able to have on file, this is who's been supported in these different badges, has been really good. And then, like Jen kind of mentioned a bit earlier on, is that particularly when people are feeling like quite confident or have been using something for a while, particularly, so now we've moved into drones, as Alexandria's got a CASA license, and there's a few other girls that have, we've actually got 9 Indigenous drone pilots who now can be, so perhaps I was the technical authority to start off with, but now they can be the technical authority to sign off on that badge because they have a full CASA license, and that we also have an elder there as well to say that we've done it right for country. So
I guess it's been a bit of a response to like formalise a process that and grow a process that was happening, especially in Warddeken, but in other ranger groups like Mimal and others, of like using cameras and other technologies, trying to kind of formalise that in a way to say, based on requests from women, saying we want a certificate that says that we know how to use this. So, and you know, now we're thinking about how we can feed that into conservation land management certificates and things to make sure that people can keep going with pathways if that's what they want to, or they can just use that skill to feel proud of the work that they're doing.
And so how much of this is capacity in-house with the groups? Like when the project finishes and the funding, the current sort of funding arrangements finish and your fellowships finish, like Warddeken sound really well set up, you guys, and presumably Mimal and others. Is there ongoing support for them as needed, or for new groups that want to kind of follow this approach, or what's your sort of vision of that longer term?
I mean, I can say kind of what my hope is. I think, you know, we've done so much kind of, I think, work internally for the moment, but I really kind of hope that it's something that can persist at CDU, and I kind of see trying to link that to the certificate twos as a way to potentially do that, you know, to have some recognition for prior learning. And I think there's a bit of work perhaps on working with lots of researchers here, because I think, you know, so many researchers are doing camera traps and song meters, and you know, when you have those discussions, it's like, yep, we're going to train the rangers, we're going to provide that, but there's nothing there left to say. And then maybe a new ranger coordinator comes and they don't know who's trained in what. So I kind of
integration into the more complex elements of making sure that it connects back to feeding that information back to the senior authorities for different places that may not be the actual person running a camera trap. All that sort of stuff is really awesome. And I guess that's the sort of the missing things that doesn't always happen in every research project.
No, and how to establish that perhaps when a researcher is new is difficult, and then where the responsibility is. So I guess because we kind of work on it based on what clan estate that we're on and who we're working with. So who that authority is changes depending on whose country we're on.
Yeah.
But I think, perhaps it's, I guess, a vision of developing better practice at, or opportunity to develop a kind of more cohesive practice at the university for like how we engage with groups, so that that option is there in the future. And
I can think of some other research institutions that use other types of digital technologies too that could take a lot from thinking a bit more richly about the process and where their research practice sits in terms of caring for country.
Yeah.
And I guess from a program perspective, like we've had funding from various sources to run this body of work, and so we started very broad to try and establish that with a lot of different groups and hear from a whole range of coordinators and organisations and women themselves about how they wanted that to happen. And then the last sort of year or two has been about like diving really deep into particular projects that people identified that they wanted to do to try and learn a particular skill to tell a story about country with data, and that will keep going at least for the next little while, and we'll keep building that, you know, with as we go on in different capacities. So we've got a really great project with Kakadu and with Mimal, and then going out into the centre as well, and like always keen to think about how that can keep supporting women in different ways too.
Yeah, and hopefully all you ladies spread the word of that you're doing this stuff, so when other ranger groups approach researchers that they, you know, like, it should be the sort of stuff you expect from us when you engage us to
That we
work
would
with
like
you.
the digital badge as part of it.
Yeah, and also you're wanting that sort of that full link back. It's not just about someone coming in and collecting some data and then giving you a report. It's about working with you in this really deep way to care for country and respect all the things that go into that. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Might wrap up now. Thank you so much.
Everybody.